Previously on Balls.
But should we get into the sports roundup?
Yeah, let's talk boxing.
Okay, now, I'm not the biggest boxing fan, but I did hear that the IBO straightweight fight that we chatted about the other day was pretty amazing.
Yes, and by straightweight, I assume you mean strawweight.
Oh, I'm learning slowly.
Yeah, it was a terrific fight. Little Heki Butler against Nkosanati Joy. Butler was just an absolute wizard. Most people had written him off ahead of this bout. Joy is really a statesman of South African boxing, multiple times world champion, and generally people thought Heki just wouldn't have the firepower. Joy himself said he'd knock Heki out inside of 6 rounds. What happened was that Heki really outsmarted him, to be honest. Excellent game plan from his trainer, Colin Nathan, I think. Heki didn't stand and trade. He essentially engaged Joy, landed 1 or 2 punches, and then disappeared. Did you ever do ballet, Hales?
No, I was robbed of that experience by my parents.
Well, I haven't established whether he was actually using ballet moves, but it looked like ballet. He would twist out the way, several times leaving Joy just punching at thin air. But it was a close fight. Joy did land some good hard punches to the body. Some people weren't happy with the result, but Heki got the win, essentially, I think, because he was smart, landed his punches, got out the way, twisted, moved, showed some fantastic speed, and retained his IBO strawweight belt. So it was a fascinating night.
When are these fights on? How is it that they just seem to pass me by and I'm completely oblivious to them? Are they on really late?
No, they're not. I mean, the show starts at about 7:30 normally, and the main fight kicks off at about 11. And these are all on SuperSport. Yeah, doesn't get the sort of media coverage that a test match gets.
Okay, well, I'm learning some quotes. If there's a boxing conversation happening, I can throw in like some Heki and some Joy and some strawweights, and I'm getting there.
Yeah, you've got to know the lingo. That's the first step, really.
All right, let's talk NBA Finals. How exciting has this been?
It's really good, especially if there are certain other sports that are making you unhappy.
Just certain other sports.
Yeah. It can happen. If that happens to you, I really recommend, as a South African, pick up some NBA. It's just so much fun. I mean, I'm 5'6" in the summer, so I'm not a basketballer, but just the last few weeks I've been picking up on the NBA Finals, and it is just huge fun.
How many finals? So now it was the Spurs against Miami Heat. How many finals do they play? Is it 4?
Well, these are the 2 champions, one from East, one from West. So
Sure.
That's what we're looking at. And they play a 7-game final. 2 in Miami, 3 in San Antonio, and then the last 2 back in Miami.
So it's the best of 7.
That's right.
And apparently with these 2 teams, it was kind of the older guys that have been in the sport for ages in the Spurs team playing against all the fresh, rich, young talent in the Miami team.
To some extent, yeah. I mean, but it was a great series. On each side, the old statesman you mentioned on the Spurs side is definitely a guy called Tim Duncan, who's 37.
That's
and
old.
he's really one of the sort of nice guys with the sport. He's got an honors degree in psychology, and he's won this tournament several times. And then on the other side, you've got LeBron James.
LeBron James.
I mean, he's called LeBron for starters, which I think is fantastic. He's not liked by everyone, but he's brash and he's brilliant. Probably the best player in the NBA. And in fact, a lot of their analysts think he could have been a great footballer. But he picked up an injury, I think late in high school, and chose basketball. So phenomenally talented guy. And he's just got everything.
And tell me, the money in these NBA finals or in the NBA just is staggering. It's way more than like our cricketers or rugby players have ever earned.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, LeBron James is one of the highest paid athletes in the world. He recently overtook Kobe Bryant as the highest paid NBA player. Yeah, but that's how it works, Millions of people watch it. They buy the they buy the merchandise and
TV
big money.
rights and all that. And the winners were?
Happened last night. I must admit I couldn't wake up. I've woken up for a couple of these, but I couldn't do it last night. The Heat took it. It went all the way down to Game 7, so it was 3 apiece.
Oh, it's so exciting.
And apparently LeBron was unbelievable. Scored 37 points.
Can you imagine how many endorsements he's going to get now?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's really got Nike and, well, everyone. So I don't know if he'll get any more. He's pretty much got all the big dogs on board already.
So Miami Heat take it. And then in terms of the rugby happening this weekend, the British and Irish Lions are playing the Wallabies. That should be a biggie. That's at about midday tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
And the Lions beat the Brumbies this week. Is that right?
The Brumbies beat the Lions.
Oh, the Brumbies beat the Lions.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's your prediction for tomorrow?
Well, look, I don't know if that game means very much. People talking about the Lions being underdone because they didn't have great competition, but then again they lost to the Brumbies. Wallabies might be underdone as well. They've been in camp for 3 weeks. What's important for me is that you compare every Lions tour to a tour which you can only say in a very soft voice, the 74 Lions. Those mystical, wonderful men of the 74 Lions tour. Won 21 matches in South Africa, drew one, didn't lose a single one.
Sure.
The names like Willie John McBride, Gareth Edwards, JPR Williams. And I think that's what's important about a Lions tour. You don't necessarily have to win every game like they did, but you've got to be a great Lions team like that 74 Lions.
74 Lions. Okay, so we'll see what they can muster up against the Wallabies. And of course, South Africa playing Samoa at 5:15 tomorrow evening. What's your prediction there?
Yeah, look, again, much like last week, I can't see us losing. We should win it. Lots of nice matchups to look at. I mean, a guy like Alassana Tuilagi is just great fun to watch.
Sorry, what's that name again?
Tuilagi.
Tuilagi.
Yeah, Samoan winger. Our team's looking good, I think. What's most important is that we play attractive rugby for me. We should win either way. I'll be a bit disappointed if we don't play attractive rugby because that's happening far too often.
Okay, so attractive rugby and obviously avoid any serious injuries.
Yeah, those first 20 minutes when we can pretty much guarantee the Samoans are going to come at us extremely hard, try and unsettle us like the Italians did.
In my pants if I saw one of them coming towards me. But let's move on to a more civilized game, and Wimbledon starts.
Yes, awfully civilized.
How do you think the South Africans are gonna fare this tournament?
Well, we've had a couple of early blows. Guys like Rick de Fust haven't qualified. I think Chanel Simmons, the young South African girl, also got knocked out in qualifying. Kevin Anderson,
our only gleaming hope ever in any of these tournaments.
Yes, our shining light. He lost at Eastbourne. That's okay. It happens. It's pretty much his only grass tournament ahead of Wimbledon. He also has a little bit of a shoulder injury. But, these guys are always carrying injuries. I think he'll be okay. Look, I think he'll be good in this tournament. Given the shoulder injury and the loss.
Round 4, round 5?
I think that would be really good. I think he should beat the first couple of guys he faces. I think he's that good that he shouldn't lose first or second round. I think he should expect third round. But I think last time I was on, I predicted he'd make a quarterfinal in this next 3 or 4 majors. I don't think it'll happen this time, but I'll stick with that prediction.
Okay. And do you think Murray could end the great British drought of Wimbledon winners?
Yeah, could we have a British winner again since first time since about 1936? I don't think so.
1936.
Yep, Fred Perry. Britain's most recent winner.
Wow.
I'm a little bit biased because I just don't like how Murray plays. He looks about as elegant as Federer would look if he was playing with just a large chunk of timber.
And his mother's annoying as well.
Yes, Mum Judy doesn't help. But I tend to think that Fed or Nadal or Djokovic will just be too good for Murray. But we'll see.
Okay, I'm reading Djokovic all the way, but obviously it's always kind of nice to see the Brits, brimming with pride if Murray does well. Cool, so that's your roundup for the week. Of course, don't forget about the rugby, the big rugby games happening tomorrow. The British and Irish Lions playing the Wallabies around midday, and Samoa versus South Africa at 5:15. We've got an impossible quiz coming up now. Ian, where are we going to be starting?
Question 1.
Okay, hit me.
Who were the first South Africans to compete at the Olympic Games?
The first South Africans to compete at the Olympic Games. Well, I know from a quiz night that Reggie Walker was the first South African to win a medal. He wasn't.
Correct. That was 1908. He won He actually
You
won.
just whipped that out. 1908.
Yeah, that's how I roll. He won the 100 meters, gold.
Okay, yes.
Believe it or not, South Africans haven't done well in that since, but he won the hundreds. Not far off. The first South Africans competed unofficially.
Wait, now you can't just give me the answer. I need clues. What the sport that they played?
It's a little bit unclear. Probably marathon. Okay.
Just tell me. Okay.
1908, when Reggie won, was the first time we sent an official team. But at the 1904 games in St. Louis, Missouri, we had several people who just happened to be there. Now, back then, the Olympic Games was just a sort of sideshow to the World's Fair. And we had probably the first people in the marathon. There were 2 South African guys, Tswanas, one called Len Tau, one called Jan Mashiani, who were there as part of a Boer War display, a sort of reenactment.
So they weren't there for the Olympics, they just happened to be in Missouri.
They happened to be there. And another chap called Bob Harris, white guy, not quite sure what he was doing there. They just entered the marathon. Harris didn't finish. He seemed to have pulled out somewhere. Mashiani and Tau both finished. I think they were sort of 12 and 17. That despite one of them being chased across a field by a dog at one stage.
Can you imagine what the Olympic officials would say about that now?
Yeah. And there was apparently a team of Boers who competed in the tug of war. There's very little detail on that, though.
Everyone could just kind of join in if they felt like it.
Yeah, that's what the games were like back then. So chances are it was Tau, Mashiani, and Harris in 1904 unofficially, and then we sent a team in 1908.
Sure. And it was Reggie Walker that won the 100-meter sprint in 1908. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he tied the record there, 10.98, in the semi and the final, and won Olympic gold. And we haven't done terribly well in the 100 flat since.
Sure. So those are the first South Africans to get medals or compete in the Olympic Games. Question number 2.
Question 2. In cricket, where does the term popping crease come from?
Popping crease. I don't think I've ever heard that before.
Well, we don't call it popping crease very often anymore. We just call it the crease. But I'm talking about the main batsman's crease. The popping crease is the original official term.
Okay. So the crease, the line that the batsman has to run or touch to get a run.
Correct.
Where does the word crease or popping crease come from? Maybe they used to use mats on the wicket and the mat used to crease on the line.
That's one of the better guesses I've ever come across.
Okay, tell us, where does the word crease in cricket come from?
I think you're on the right lines.
Ah.
It's from a little hole or a sort of a little nick in the ground, which was used for, well, the batsman had to pop his bat into it when he completed a run.
Oh.
And the bowler had to pop the ball into it to run the batsman out. Trust the English to use a delightful little word like pop.
So the batsman had to touch that little hole with their bat?
No, not touch. Pop. He had to pop his bat into the hole.
He had to pop his bat into the hole, and the batsman had to get the ball.
The bowler had to get the ball in. Yeah.
The bowler had to pop the ball in to get the batsman out.
Yep, I think they got rid of the little hole because, well, it was causing injuries here and there. And now it's just a line, but that's the origin of the popping crease.
Ah, interesting. Okay, definitely had never heard of that before. I'm on 0 out of 2. Maybe I can redeem myself. Last question.
Last question. Who was the first black heavyweight champion of the world? boxing, that
The
is.
first black heavyweight boxing champion.
Correct.
Okay, well, the Klitschko brothers, I know, are in the mix now. And haven't all the other heavyweight champions been black?
For a long time, that's right. So we have to go way back in time.
So the first black heavyweight champion. Maybe you can send us a quick tweet if you know the answer to this one. The first black heavyweight boxing champion of the world. We'll play a song, and then after the song, Ian can tell us. We've got Ian Mack in studio with us, who's just hit us with the third question of the sports trivia quiz. The third question was, who was the first black heavyweight boxing champion of the world? Now, we put it out on Twitter, and some of the guesses have been Iron Mike, Sonny Liston. Let me see if there are any other guesses here. Those are the incorrect ones. Then a few people have got it right. What's the answer, Ian?
Well, this one is close to my heart. He's probably my favorite sportsman of all time, and probably one of the most important as well. The correct answer did come through from, one source I'd expect, from Ami Kapilovic, former editor of Sports Illustrated South Africa, who guessed. No, he didn't guess. He gave the answer, Jack Johnson.
Jack Johnson.
Now
Why is this close to your heart?
Well, he was one of the funniest athletes ever. Have a look at a book about him called Unforgivable Blackness. He came about at a time when the heavyweight champion of the world was considered the preserve of white America. His picture hung in every saloon, and he was considered the strongest, toughest, and best man in the world. And white America refused to give black America, or any black athlete, the chance of winning the title, until eventually the title was won by a Canadian called Tommy Burns. And he also played the race card, refused to fight black men, until eventually Jack Johnson got his chance, and they fought in Rushcutters Bay in Sydney. And Jack actually destroyed him. And he held the title for a good few years, eventually relinquishing it in 1915 in Cuba. But Jack Johnson was one of the first real worldwide sports stars, mostly because he was hated. In America, there's actually currently a campaign underway led by John McCain to have his jail sentence or his conviction for a crime quashed or erased.
What was his crime?
Well, he was convicted under one of the racist laws at the time, the Mann Act, essentially for transporting women across state lines for immoral purposes, was the official explanation or the official law. He was actually famous for frolicking with white prostitutes, in fact, and it was one of these prostitutes who had become his wife, and he paid for a railway ticket for her to cross the state line at some stage. It was essentially a trumped-up charge.
Okay, so they were just trying to blacklist his name, basically, and his
Yeah,
reputation.
white America, or the institution at the time, was gunning for him. They wanted to catch him on something, and they caught him out.
Interesting. Okay, so there you have it. The first black heavyweight boxing champion of the world, Jack Johnson, with a little history behind it. Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Thanks for coming in and testing our knowledge and giving us the weekly sports wrap. What you up to this weekend?
Well, I think I'll be watching a fair bit of sport. There's some good Lamar to watch, the motor racing. BMW Open, the golf, will be very good. We've got Ernie Els
Ernie Els is up there,
doing
hey?
brilliantly, and also the young chap I've seen on balls a few times, Brandon Stone. His first professional tournament, shot a 63 in his opening round.
Okay, so lots of good sport coming up this weekend. Hope you'll catch it all. And of course, we'll see Ian Mack again next week, giving us the weekly sports wrap. Have a cool weekend.
We'll do it. Cheers.
The Hayley O Show. Every Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Only on bulls.co.za.